Good evening, everybody. My name is John King. I'm your Master of Ceremony and Perspiration, apparently. So welcome to the Kerouac Project of Orlando. We got a very special evening tonight, but I do want to let you know, in 3 weeks, we will be having another public event, and that is the potluck dinner for Chelsea Clammer to welcome her as the newest resident.
Do you have the date?
September 7th?
Okay, great.
So that is open to the public, and please bring food. We have had the situation where everyone brought wine, and that was an interesting night. So tonight, unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Deirdre Coyle, who's been awesome. So she is a columnist for Unwinnable magazine with her column, This Mortal Coyle. She's also the author of the chapbook, How to Talk to Writers at Parties. And in her time in this house, she's mostly written in the back because that's where the vibes are. That's the area of the house where Jack wrote the first draft of the Dharma Bums. Hopefully you've been less medicated than him in order to get so much writing done. And as a Gothic goddess out of Brooklyn, she's also, because she's learned the truth about Florida, the Sunshine State, which is in the summer, it rains all the time. She suffered the indignity of walking around with a Victoria's Secret pink umbrella. I'd like to think that she's put her vibes into the umbrella more than the umbrella's put the vibes into her. So it is my great honor to introduce Deirdre Coyle.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? Is this the right distance? Okay. Thank you guys for coming, and so grateful to the Kerouac Project for letting me be here for 3 months. It was very productive. It was very vibey. Saw a lot of weird movements out of the corner of my eye, which was totally normal and fine, even when I thought it was my cat, who's in Brooklyn. So I've been working on a novel this summer, and I'm going to read you some of that, and then I'm going to read you an older story. So do you have a preference? Do you want the story first or the novel first? Does anyone care?
Novel first.
Novel first? Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to read from the beginning, so I don't have to tell you anything about it. The woods look the same after 15 years. An obnoxious consistency, considering the rampant changes in Mira's face, her mental landscape, her life structure. She'd been an almost virgin last time she stood here, blood speckling the foliage and hymen bleeding out her thighs. It's mid-afternoon, 8 hours after leaving the city. Behind her, the house where her parents used to live. Before her, a path flickering in and out of focus like a southern wilderness stereogram. Mira ignores the convoluted visual, guided instead by skeletal memory through a carpet of creeper vines, stinging nettles, acorns, oak leaves, bitternut hickory husks. Decades and decades of dead flora getting stamped out under her vegan suede Chelsea boots. Every crunch a resounding fuck you. The chirping birds and rustling branches act like they don't even care that she's back. Half a mile into the forest, in a copse of trees overgrown with furry poisonous sumac, Mira drops to her knees. She paused through a cluster of ferns, bare legs sinking through detritus into the dirt, muttering, "Okay, I know you're here." Shoveling leaves away, bargaining, "You're still here, okay?" Then small stones emerge from the sediment, one by one, until a barstool-sized circle appears. "Okay," Mira says, sitting back and spreading open an ugly canvas bag. Inside the tote, a bear-shaped bottle sits on a pile of rocks. She flips the bottle over, smacks its underside, and squeezes 3 drops of honey into the center of the stones. She imagines ripping off a sumac vine and looping it into a slip knot, pushing her face through the poisonous fibers, tightening the vine around her neck. What if someone cared enough to grip the sumac vines for her, to let the poison sink between their own fingers, to bend and coax the vines into delicate shibari knots, to lace her up before carrying her down to the water? What if someone cared enough to let her just lie there? The honey spreads and fades into the ground. Mira stands, brushing dead leaves off her black wool pinafore dress and fleece-lined tights. She shoulders the heavy bag, trundling back to the path that isn't a path. The house she grew up in isn't visible this deep in the forest. She hadn't bothered introducing herself to its current residents. What would she have said? "Hi, I used to live here, and I'd like to talk to the neighbors in your woods. I know you own the land. I know there are no other houses on the property. I know you think you don't have neighbors, but I know who lives on your land, and I know whose land you live on." And then she'd start laughing, and someone would call the police or the psych ward, and there would be paperwork, and it would be years before she made it back to the river. It had already been 15 years since the last time. She'd catapulted so quickly from being too young to being too old. As a teenager, she was waiting to turn 18, waiting to leave town, waiting to lose her acne and come into her face, waiting to go below. In her 20s, waiting for her career to take off, waiting to be taken seriously, waiting to have enough name recognition to publish in the places she wanted to publish. And now suddenly she's too old to be an ingenue, too old to have her whole career ahead of her, too old to use just starting out as an excuse for all the things she hasn't done, the things she hasn't published, too old to win any under 35 awards, too old for the acne that pops up on her forehead next to that long, thin worry line that she can't afford to Botox. Where were the years in which she was supposed to have done something? She's young, but not nearly young enough. On her feeds, people are getting married, no thanks, and creating tiny people, veto, and making art, how, and writing books, well. Somehow they'd carved paths to these places, but what shrewd alignment of choices had led them there? Melodramatic lines of dead women's poetry rise from latent memories. "Give me back my shape. I am ready to construe the days I coupled with dust in the shadow of a stone." Shit remembered from years sitting in these woods and reading books like they'd get her anywhere. Finally, Mira reaches the stream that wants to be called a river. Narrow and babbling, it carries a river's emotional weight, and across certain stretches, an ocean's depth. In the center of the stream, a smooth boulder hulks upward, part of a rock configuration she used to call the couch. Surrounding pebbles have moved, but not the couch itself. Along the boulder's edge, a vertical slab stands wide and flat, wedged in some ancient crevice directly behind. This was her preferred childhood lounge, the boulder acting as cushions, the slab as back pillows. Her stubby legs would stretch toward the river, notebook on her lap as she scribbled with colored pens. She'd known what she wanted then, something akin to what she has now. It feels wrong. Getting to the couch used to be difficult. Child-sized legs necessitated wide leaps from the leafy shoreline to intermittent pebbles to the boulder where she'd reach out her arms and clamber. Now she steps easily from one rock to another, tucking her legs beneath her on the boulder's center. The tote bag drops with a harsh thud, its contents stretching the fabric. She fingers the stones in her bag, some larger, some smaller, collected by various roadsides on her drive from New York to Virginia. She'd pulled over at rest stops and gas stations along I-95, ignoring gas-pumping onlookers, digging through gravel for stones large enough to hold weight but small enough to fit in a pocket. During those 8 hours listening to leftist podcasts hosted by clammy, cerebral losers, the rocks had looked like physical manifestations of her life's geographic journey. Now they look like fucking rocks. She lifts one up and throws it against the boulder, wanting it to shatter. Instead, it tumbles over the side of the couch, falling into the river with a barely audible plop. She grabs a handful of rocks and drops them into her left pocket, a pocket so deep it runs halfway down her dress. Mother of beetles, only unclench your hand. "Did you miss me?" she asks the air, reaching for another fistful. "I just want to talk." The forest flickers silently as she continues shoveling rocks into her pockets. Reality shuffles and reshuffles, but nothing actually changes. "Y'all are twee," she mumbles, side-eyeing two oaks in particular. Fluid realism never helped her when she needed it. The fabric of her dress sags but holds, two bulging lumps like tumors at her hips. When no more stones will fit in her pockets, she sticks a few in the bottom of her Chelsea boots, nothing but a plastic bear left in the tote bag. She stretches her legs, lifts her arms above her head. "It was nice not seeing y'all again," she says. On the boulder's southern side, the stream winds downriver, skipping shallowly over pebbles and algae, bending itself into quiet indentations where water striders live. But on the northern side, the riverbed drops steeply into a swimming hole so deep that she could never touch the bottom. When she was 7 years old, a Red Cross Level 3 swim lesson graduate, she dove straight down, eyes wide open in the murky summer light. She kicked and kicked. The light faded, and she still saw no sign of bedrock. Distantly, her mother's voice called out, and Mira began a lifelong pattern by ignoring it. The water darkened until the surface world ceased to exist. Below, shapes she couldn't name emerged from the shadows. Ears ringing, she butterflied her arms and propelled further. And then, an unknown force thrust her small body upward until she broke the surface, gasping and choking, spitting water onto her bejeweled aquamarine one-piece. After getting swimmer's ear and spending the following week on antibiotics, Mira gave up finding bedrock. But that wouldn't matter this time. She'd never need a doctor again. "Give me back my shape," she says aloud. Mira pushes herself to the rock's northern side, every movement difficult from within the weighted dress. And heavily she slides into the sun-dappled water. Chapter 2. Leaves hang black against a dark blue sky. The southern twilight feels heavy, Mira thinks, until she realizes it's the weight of her wet dress. The wool flattens along her torso, but doesn't actually feel soaked through, as if she's been drying out a while. She touches her hair, also damp but not dripping. She's lying prostrate, spine gently curved against the couch. Her pockets are empty, boots cleared out. Somewhere in the forest, a hickory nut crashes to the ground. The noise that as a child she always assumed was a bloodthirsty animal, the noise that now sends pain shooting through her skull. Her head pounds like a hangover, though she's had nothing to drink but river water. At this rate, a waterborne disease might kill her before she manages it herself. She creeps back through the forest, avoiding nettles more carefully now that she has to inhabit her body a while longer. Skirting the backyard of her childhood home, she walks to the rental car, parked out of sight, blocked from view by a cluster of sugar maples and a curve in the country road, only forest and gravel in any direction. She gets into the Honda Accord, $29 a day for a hunk of metal that doesn't even have an aux cord. She doesn't start the car. Mira looks at the trees for advice. The real inconvenience, if she's not sleeping at the bottom of the river, she'll have to make other arrangements for tonight. It would take so long to recollect enough stones of the right size, and there wouldn't be much point if the river already rejected her. It's 8 p.m. on a Sunday. She's certainly not going back to New York now. The car's booked for a week, even though she hadn't planned on using it after tonight. Her family fucked off to Phoenix long ago, and most of her friends left town or died after high school. Maybe a real drink would cure her river water hangover. The jug might be worth a shot. Mira vaguely remembers that Molly Simmons, who used to sell weed during study hall, works at this bar downtown. Molly's posted on Facebook recently enough that she isn't dead, at least. And if she doesn't work at the jug anymore, Mira can just have a drink and then find somewhere to spend the night. At a motel or with a human. She's sure Virginia still has at least a few of each. Wedged between two other buildings, the jug's only identification is a crudely drawn bottle carved into a wooden sign. It's not a student hangout, although students sometimes show up, but anyone who comes here knows where they're going. Elderly men post up on the far end of the bar, and two young couples play pool in the back. One of the girls campaigns for a switch to darts. No bartender in sight. Mira sits centrally in viewing distance of the front door as well as the kitchen. Surely a bartender will appear sometime. She checks her phone. She turned off notifications before going into the woods, even though she doesn't get signal out there anyway. Switching them on launches an assault. Checking in, did you receive my earlier email? Finance charge alert. Posy updates. Jesus Dick is now following you. Invitation to the last party at the end of the world. New message from Fed Loan Servicing. Drinks? Pick your brain about freelance rates? Bukowski Lover 420 wants to send you a direct message. Write your article, bitch. Thanks for reaching out. Due to an overwhelming number of responses, fuck you, commie cunt. Can I pick your brain about freelancing? Overdue payment alert from Fed Loan Servicing. Did you get an invite to Gino's party? Do you have a +1? What's your contact at LitRag? Can I get their email? What are your freelance rates? She should have set up an auto response. Sorry, I'm dead. She clears everything and opens the front-facing camera. Flyaways halo her mouse brown hair, probably because it air-dried on a rock. She scrapes through the frizz, which somehow worsens the situation. Checking to make sure no one's watching, she swipes a hand through the liquid condensation on the bar, then runs her fingers through her hair. Angling her phone in the dim light, she inspects her scalp more closely. So far, she's only found 2 or 3 gray hairs, wiry deviations she plucks whenever necessary. Not visible now, thank God. What would it be like to have Molly Simmons see her after so many years with a gray hair? What if Molly found her unrecognizable? The kitchen door swings open and a petite woman with a dark, messy bun emerges carrying a tray of empty glasses. Shoving the glasses behind the bar, the woman's tank top drops open to reveal a lacy green bra, a move that might increase tips if any other customers had seen it. The bartender straightens, finally making eye contact with Mira. A moment of silence passes between them. Hi, Molly. Molly's eyes widen. Mira? What the hell? She sprints around the counter. You didn't tell me you were coming to town. Mira squeezes Molly's tiny frame. I'm sorry, it was super last minute. I hoped you were still here. Molly pulls back. Dude, why are you wet? Oh, Mira pats her empty pockets. It rained earlier. No, it didn't. In New York, Mira lies. I haven't had time to change. Molly punches Mira's arm. It's been a minute. What can I get you to drink? Do you still like gin and tonics? Mira shakes her head. I love gin and tonics, but I realize that gin makes me crazy, not in a fun way. Last time I got gin drunk, I tried to fight a guy in the street. Molly walks behind the bar. Well, did you win? He didn't hit back. A gentleman, Molly says. No, he tried to pick me up by telling me a rape joke. Molly shudders. What was the joke? He said, you're going to get lucky tonight, know how I know? And when I didn't answer, he said, because I'm a lot physically stronger than you. So I punched him. Good girl, Molly says. But I take your point. No gin. What do you want then? The old guys are drinking beer and empty shot glasses surround the young couples at the pool table. Do you have, like, wine? Mira asks. Molly reaches beneath the bar and pulls out 2 tiny bottles of Sutter Home. Shitty white or shitty red, or I can recommend you an actually decent beer. Mira sighs. Beer gives me yeast infections. I'll take the shitty red, thanks. Molly pours the Cabernet into a beer glass and slides it over. She leans her elbows on the bar. Now tell me more. How long are you here for? When are you moving home? What do you actually do all day? Do you make money? She grabs Mira's left hand, running a thumb across her knuckles. You're not married. Are you single? Have you seen Luke? Are y'all still in touch? Does he know you're here? Can I drink first? Molly rolls her eyes. Hurry up. Mira answers Molly's questions as quickly as possible. She doesn't make much money, but pays rent. Spends her days sending pitch emails, replying to emails, copy editing for small publications, occasionally writing essays. Doesn't have a consistent lay, hasn't seen Luke, they're not in touch, not sure how long she's in town. So what, Molly says, you just blitzed down here for the hell of it? Where are your folks? Molly manifests another bottle of Sutter Home and pours it in Mira's empty glass. My parents moved to Arizona. Nice. It's not. I always wanted to go to Sedona, Molly says. It's beautiful. Yes, a picturesque, bright red state with deeply fucked immigration policies bathed in the golden light of human rights violations. That's the whole country, Molly says. They drink. Now, Mira says, this is the part where you tell me everything that's happened in your life over the past decade. Molly talks about her fiancé, a contractor from Fluvanna County, who apparently has Dick Two-Bomb not to lock down. Molly likes working at the Jug, but is anxious to run it herself. She hopes the owner dies soon. Molly wants kids, her fiancé wants boys. Molly wants to own a house, her fiancé wants to spend 6 months of the year dirt biking. The compromise, she says, is that if they buy a house and he doesn't shirk his half of the mortgage, he can ride wherever and whomever he wants. Around 2 a.m., Molly asks where Mira's staying. I don't know yet. Probably the Super 8. Bullshit, Molly says. I'm off at 4 a.m. or however long it takes me to clean, and you're staying with me. On the drive to Molly's, Mira zones out. She's had too much to drink, so her rental's sitting in the Jug's parking lot, and she's in Molly's Camry. She tries to listen as Molly complains about her fiancé's post-biking BO, but continually refocuses on how strange it is that she hasn't seen Molly in 15 years, and they weren't really that close, were they? And now she's staying at Molly's place out in Ivy after an unknowable amount of Sutter Homes. The building's thin until only trees pass in the dark. The Big and Little Dippers, the only constellations Mira recognizes, hang so low she worries they'll scrape the hood of the car. By the time they reach Molly's house, it's 5 a.m. A clapboard one-story sits at the end of a long gravel driveway surrounded by woods. 2 eyes flash brightly in the forest, reflecting headlights. Probably just deer. And that's that. Are we okay on time? Okay. So that's what I've been working on. And then I was going to read an older story that was published in Joyland a while back. This is called Girlfriend. Another cockroach crawls through my hair. I lift its body, watch its legs wiggle. I hate to kill anything, so I flick him into a corner of the garage and look up from the cement. Johnny, Carl, Sean, and James fold over their instruments like skinny hunchbacks, their fingers fumbling. A scream of feedback reverberates. They suck, but their focus gets to me. When Johnny first asked me to come to practice, I couldn't understand why he wanted me there. They practiced at his place, so it wasn't like he needed a ride. He shuttled me through his house and into the garage, then asked me to stay. I wanted to say that I had things to do, and I did. Fires to start, strip malls to burn down, gasoline in the trunk of my car, ready to go. But I couldn't say that to him or anyone, so I just stayed. Tools and lawnmowers line the walls, a moldy blanket in one corner, amps and instruments and pedals and wires clustered into a rat king on the center of the floor. The garage door didn't even work, something about a broken spring that Johnny refused to fix. So when Johnny said, "Make yourself comfortable," I wasn't sure what he had in mind. I sat against the wall. They played a song, all heavy distortion and down-tuned guitars. It sucked. Johnny's body hooked into a C shape, his eyes focused on the frets on his fingers, his red-orange hair fluffing outward as he bobbed his head. I watched his face as he forgot I existed, as his body reformed itself into a house on fire, a house I could never enter. Burning buildings make terrible homes, but I had never wanted to live anywhere so badly. Staring at them, I felt suffocated by my bones and organs and skin, claustrophobic inside myself, incapable of immersion in anything. After 2 songs, I had to go. At Wendy's, I ordered French fries and ate them in the parking lot while listening to music that didn't suck at maximum volume. Some kids banged on my window and screamed at me to turn it down, but I just slouched further in my seat. After finishing my fries, I drove about 50 miles north, got off at a gas station, bought a cup of coffee, and turned back. I drove for hours. My mind sparked hot as a trick candle, off and on and off and on, and never quite cutting out. Now, again, I tell Johnny that I have to go. "One more song," he says. "We're playing that one that I played you those chords from the other day." My mind blanks. He does this all the time. "You liked it?" he says. "Come on, babe. Stay longer." A pustule glistens beneath his left nostril. My fingernails dig into my palm, trying not to pop it. "Okay," I say, sitting back on the cement. I did have plans today, setting fire to Old Navy and watching it burn from the McDonald's next door. Instead, I watched the band play a song called Death Swallow. Their instruments funnel them into some kind of fugue state, and I can barely differentiate notes between the noise and feedback, Carl's cigarette scream vocals. The chorus might be something about cum and sailors' mouths, but it's hard to say. Whatever trance they inhabit together, I've only experienced alone. After practice, Johnny's busy with the guys, so I leave. Behind Old Navy, 3 giant dumpsters lean against a brick wall. I lift the lid off the blue one, a mountain range of recyclables, a clean sheet of cardboard sticking out the top. I take a Bic lighter out of my bag and light the edge of the cardboard. It glows orange for a second, then goes out. I light it again. I reach for some newspaper beneath and fire that up too, throw it in deeper, watch the paper products turn into monsters. I take a few steps back and sit on the asphalt. I shouldn't stick around, but nobody's here. When I'm alone, my focus recalibrates. Everything's red, orange, white, and I feel so calm. Loneliness powers its own fire and brightens up that shit behind my breastplate. Warmth spreads outward, touches my sweaty forehead, my cold fingers. I take my shoes off and look around the lot. Even now, I'm looking for roaches. The next day, I'm in 7-Eleven buying gasoline. Lighters line the counter, one with a tattoo-style Lady Luck lifting her thigh in salute. I pick her up. The cashier looks at my choice, looks at the red canister in my right hand. I smile sheepishly, put Lady Luck down. I continue walking around the store, pretending there is something else I want, picking up granola bars and single-dose Advil packs and plastic funnels. I hear a familiar voice and see Sean, Johnny's drummer, with some other guy. Our eyes meet across a bag of potato chips. "Hi, Sean," I say. "Oh," Sean says. "Hey." He glances at the other guy and gestures to me. This is Johnny's girlfriend. "Tim," says the other guy. We nod over the potato chips and don't shake hands. Sean scratches his neck. Tim smiles weakly. "Okay," I say, hoisting my can of gasoline in mock salute. "See ya." I hide the gasoline in my trunk. I light napkins on fire in a back alley. I wonder why I ever do anything. In McDonald's, I'm sitting near a woman with a black gig bag strapped to her back. As I dip fries directly into torn-open ketchup packets, I squint at the case, trying to determine its instrument. She catches my eye, pushing a shiny blue bob behind her ears. "What's your name?" she asks. I bite into 3 stacked fries, chewing silently. I don't recognize her. "Did we go to school together?" she presses. Ketchup drips on the table. "I don't think so." "I'm Elsie Fisher. I went to Monacan." "Sorry." "You look so familiar. I must have seen you at shows." "Maybe?" "What do you play?" she asks. I shake my head too quickly. I don't want to make music. I only want to make fires. In the garage, the boys play Death Swallow, Aggro, and Pistol Whip It. They pause when they run out of beer. Johnny walks to my spot by the wall. "Come with me for a beer run, babe?" "Sure," I say. "Can you drive? My car's out of gas." We go to BP and pick up 3 6-packs of Rolling Rock. "Is this enough?" I ask. Johnny shrugs. In the car, I say, "Pistol Whip It's a good song name." "Yeah," Carl thought of it. "Isn't it about James's dog?" Yeah, but Carl thought of the pun. Carl's really good at puns. I saw Sean at the gas station the other day with someone named Tim. Who's Tim? I don't know. I thought maybe you knew him. I don't know him, Johnny says. Okay. Wait, what was his name? Tim, I say. Oh, Tim? Yeah, Tim. I know that guy. Do you think we got enough beer? They play sock rockets, spoils of peace, kill sauce. I watch Sean's hi-hat catch the light from the bare bulb on the ceiling. Johnny's head keeps hitting the chain that hangs from the bulb, the chain swinging around and around. Light flickers over and under my eyelids, a cockroach ambles near my fingers, and I move my hand so it's not in the roach's way. It scuttles past me, doesn't even look at me. Jesus, I think. I thought we were friends. After practice, Johnny and I go to Wendy's. I try to play some music that doesn't suck, but he turns it off. You can't turn that off, I say. This is my car. Please, he says. I really want to listen to this demo. Come on. Okay, I say, thinking about the gasoline in my trunk. It's funny to keep gasoline in the trunk of my car because it's like supposed to be there. A cop could search my car and find nothing wrong. It's almost like there is nothing wrong with me. We head back to the garage. I perch on a speaker cabinet eating my fries. Johnny spreads himself across the Rat King with 2 cheeseburgers, chicken nuggets, a large soda. Does it go to 11? I ask. What? This. I pat the amp. Does it go to 11? He takes a bite of the second cheeseburger. I hate that movie. After dinner, I go down on Johnny and he falls asleep in the wires, pants off, flannel on. I find half a beer on the floor and finish it, grab Johnny's jeans from below his feet and fold them over a fat audio cable. I press my face into the makeshift pillow and fall asleep. In the morning, I'm alone with amplifiers and abandoned instruments. Maybe Johnny went to the bathroom or maybe to his actual bed. The door to the house is locked. I knock, but if Johnny's passed out, he won't hear me. I push the garage door button, even knowing it's broken. It depresses beneath my thumb without acknowledgement. No movement, no mechanical buzz, nothing. My exit strategies are running out. I'm not staying in this garage forever, fighting my way into someone else's fire. I'd hidden the gas can in the mold with me, and I stare at its cheerful red shell. My fingers close around the cap and twist idly at first until the scent of petrol sharpens my focus and tightens my grip. Pouring slowly, I write my name in fuel across the center of the Rat King, splashing an extra dose on Johnny's discarded jeans. Piss-colored liquid drips through the rubberized tangle, darkens the cement. What happens to wires when they burn? Do they melt or explode? I drag Sean's throne to the garage door and sit. I'm ready to destroy the objects whose owners I can name. To see Sean's bass drum burn and blacken, Carl's mic stand light up, fire eat through the varnish on James's bass, strings pop off Johnny's guitar. To leave them unarmed and unfocused. I pray to Lady Luck. I pry the safety off my lighter. Thanks.